Hey everybody, Luke here. Hope you're all doing well and staying safe. This will be the first of 3 short videos about running survival analyses on program MARK. And this will be the first one where we'll go over the Cormack-Jolly-Seber models. And I'll start from Canvas here just to show you something that's changed slightly. So here we are at the home page. Go to modules and come down on labs, and what I've done is just put everything you need for running a particular lab on what we call a page in Canvas. So click on that and then you'll see here's the zip file that we always have available for the lab, and then the YouTube videos. I'm actually re-recording these because the quality was pretty low. So I'll just quickly go over how you download and open the zip file. So you just click on it and it'll download. This will go to my downloads folder. I'm going to take it out of there, and I think I'll just put it on the desktop here. Just add a new folder. Just example survival analyses. I'm going to paste that zip file in here, and then I'm going to extract all the files out of that. Just go ahead and keep it there. Okay, so now we've got our folder with all of the different files on it. Notice you have a number of data files that we're going to go through in these examples. 2007 nest predation, brown ADT, which is brownie, band recovery model, and then the one we're going to work on right now is the dipper data. Also have gnatcatcher data that you're going to need for your homework. Got your homework assignment. Oops, I'm going to have to get rid of this one. So we want to open homework assignment 2020. Here's the overview that we kind of give you for sort of reviewing what we're doing during lab. Another one called field methods, which you might think, well, we've already looked at all the field methods since we've done it, but you might want to come down and take a look at the end of that. We have some references about whether artificial nests really mimic real nests, and you might want to take a look at that for one of the questions in the homework. Okay, then I've got the Thursday nest data and the Tuesday nest data. I can see I ran some MARK analyses, so there's some of those MARK files in there as well, but I'm actually going to take those out before lab. So now let's just go over the analysis of the dipper data. That's using the CJS model. So we'll get MARK up and running, and we're going to click on File and New. This is a new data set. Click on the file to open, and I had set to a different one. So I'm going to go to the desktop, find my survival example folder if I can. Oh no, not this PC, desktop. And boom, survival analysis. I'll go in here. And here's the dipper data. So we're going to look at data on dippers. Probably most of you know the American dipper, a really cool bird that lives along streams and rivers here in the western U.S. Gets its name because it dips up and down as it hops from rock to rock along the streams and actually dives underwater and pulls aquatic insects right off of the bottom of the stream. Has really cool adaptations for its feet to be able to hang on to substrates on the bottom of streams while it grabs things. Go up the Poudre River sometime and take a look, and you'll find them. So got the data imported. I'm just going to call this dipper. And it's always good to take a look at the file. You just click View File. And this is a Cormack-Jolly-Seber, so we just have one or 0 for each occasion. So in this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 occasions. And then we got two groups. The first column indicates whether it's a male, that it's a male. The second column indicates it's a female. So that's important when we get to our group definitions. So we want to set our encounter occasions up to 7 and our attribute groups to 2. The first is male and the second is female. Now we've done this before, so I'm going through it a little bit quickly. If you need to come back and review that, hopefully you can see the steps. Okay, once you have those set, you click OK, and it'll say, yeah, you want to set up a new data file for this. And it'll bring up this first window of the parameter index matrix. What I'd like to do is just look at all of them. So I'm going to click on PIM, Open Parameter Index Matrix. I want to select all because there's actually 4 of them total. I'll click on Window Tile so we can see them all. And let's just go over these so we know what we're talking about. So the first one is down here in the lower right corner. So these are the apparent survival parameters for males. Okay, so notice it runs 1 through 6 because we have 6 intervals during which we can estimate survival for the males. And then 7 through 12 are the apparent survival parameters for females. Then 13 through 18 are the recapture probabilities for the males. And remember, can't estimate recapture probabilities on the first occasion because we haven't caught anything yet. So 13 would represent the second occasion for males, third occasion, and so on. And then the same thing for the females, recapture probabilities for each of those occasions. Now let's take a look at the parameter index chart, and you see the familiar stair-step kind of pattern here. Again, the first 6 parameters are survival parameters for the males for each interval, females each interval, male recapture probability for each occasion, female recapture probability for the first occasion. So let's just go ahead and run this. This is the most general model. So I'll say run and then click on current model. It'll bring up this little window that says put in your model name, and I'm going to call this phi. So survival is varying by sex and time. You don't have to use these exact names. A lot of times people just use G to indicate the grouping variable. Time, T, is usually what's used for time. And then, a little p in parens, sex, comma, T. Okay, so this is a fully parameterized model. Click OK to run. Yes. And append it to the model output. Let's take a look. And boom, there it is. One thing I'm going to do here is increase the font size, because I know when I did this the first time I recorded this, it was pretty hard to see the model definitions that I used. So here we go, phi, sex t, p, sex t. And one thing to notice here is that the number of parameters is only listed as 22, whereas if we look at the PIM chart, we saw that there was 24. So what's going on? Well, remember we talked about this with the Cormack-Jolly-Seber models. On the last occasion, survival is confounded with recapture probability. We can't separate out recapture probability because we don't have a subsequent capture occasion. So we will just get one estimate that will combine both recapture probability and survival for that last occasion. And it'll do that for males and females, so that's why it's reduced from 24 to 22. Okay, so let's think about maybe reducing the number of parameters into something that's a little bit more manageable. So one thing we might think about is just saying let's have constant capture probabilities for males and females. So I'll move the phi female on top of the phi male and then click constant. That'll collapse all those into one. Do the same thing for the males. So now we just have one survival parameter and we're going to have it be the same for males and females. Now I got this big gap here, so what I'm going to do is renumber with overlap. And so now I have a model where I have phi dot, only one estimate of phi, and then I've got separate recapture probabilities for males and for each year, separate recapture probabilities for females for each year. Still might be more complex than we might think would be a good model, but let's go ahead and run that. So we'll click run. We'll say current model. So now we have phi dot. Okay. And we have P, we have different estimates by sex and by time. So that's good. We'll click OK to run. Yes, use the identity. Yes, add it to the results file, and bam, there it is. It's popping up well above that fully parameterized model, about 11 delta AIC units better. Drop the number of parameters to 13. That makes sense. We got 6 recapture probabilities for each sex and then 1 survival probability. Okay, well, let's reduce this a little bit further. One thing you might think is, maybe it doesn't make sense to have different recapture probabilities for males and for females for each year. Let's say, if you have a good year for capturing birds, it's probably going to be equal for males and females. So let's try that PT model. We'll keep phi dot the same so that we don't confuse things here. We'll run that current model. So now we have phi dot PT. I'm just going to modify that model name, and let's see. Let's run it and see what happens. Okay to run. Yes. Yes. There's a way to tell Mark to stop asking you these questions all the time. And bam, once again, it pops up to the top. So we're doing better and better. And again, like 10 AIC units, it's 99% weight. So very, very likely that this is our best model. All right. Let's go a step further. Maybe capture probabilities differ between males and females. So let's first let's just say okay, we've done phi dot pt. Let's do one more. Let's just say maybe capture probabilities vary by sex, and we have the same survival. So the way we would do that is just to make your P's constant for males and females, but now we do want to have it recapture probability differ by sex, so we just slide that over. So let's take a look here. We have one parameter for phi for males and females across all years, all the same. Now we have recapture probabilities that differ for males and females, but they're constant across all years. So we want to see, do males versus females have a higher recapture probability? So now we're going to run this model, and we'll call that phi dot and p sex, okay, because we're allowing p to vary by sex. We'll run that one. Yes, yes, and boom, that jumps up to the top. So this is a common approach that you'll see used in developing these kinds of models, is to let to keep your parameter of interest, which really is phi here. We really want to know the survival of these birds, and keep that constant, and then vary what's known as your nuisance parameter, which is recapture probability. We're not really interested in, recapture probabilities per se, but we want to have the model, the best recapture probability model, such that we can then really start focusing on models that vary phi. Okay, so we think we've got the best model now of P, where it allows recapture probabilities to vary by sex. Let's just take a look at that. Okay, and what you see is you have a phi of about 0.56 here. Okay, we just have one estimate of survival for all the years. And then notice that we have recapture probability for males of 0.92, for females of 0.88. Doesn't vary very much, but look at these standard errors are pretty darn small. So, it suggests that there is some evidence that these recapture probabilities are varying by sex. And so let's stick with that. And now let's try a couple variations on phi. So let's open this up again, and let's say, well, maybe there is year-to-year variation in survival, but we just didn't pick it up because we had the wrong p model. So we're going to open these back up again, let them vary by time, and let's do that with the model that we had run with the p's. Okay, so phi t p sex. Let's run this, and all I have to do now is change that phi t p sex. Okay to run. Yes, yes. Okay, and nope, that doesn't jump to the top, but let's try one more. Let's just vary phi by sex and see if that does any better. So we want to make these constant again, and the order that you can do this in different ways. I'm just doing one approach. Make phi in male and female constant, renumber, no overlap, one estimate of phi for all the males, one estimate of phi for all the females. Then we have our male recapture probability, female recapture probability. Let's run that. See where that pops out. And yes, yes. And okay, yep, still not doing better than the constant model, about 2 units below. So basically that says it really didn't improve the fit any. If there is absolutely no improvement in fit, it would be exactly 2, because we penalize our model by 2 AIC units for each additional parameter. So, okay, that's not working out. But remember, well, no, I can't remember because I didn't say it. If you look at your overview description of the data, it was noted that there were big flood years during the 7 years that these data were collected, and those were in years 2 and 3. There were big floods in the spring and summer. So you might think, well, that could affect survival. So let's see if we can separate those years out and just look at survival in those years and compare it to the rest of the years. And we don't think sex is having an effect. So let's just assume that males and females have the same survival um, during those years. And so one thing to remember here is to click Retrieve Model when you want to pull up that particular model. Then I'll click on Parameter Index Chart. Okay, so here's a really powerful thing you can do in MARK is instead of moving these parameters around as a block as we've been doing so far, you can move individual parameters by holding down the Control key and clicking on whichever box you want to move and dropping it on top of the other one. Okay, so remember we want survival for years 1, 4, 5, and 6 to be the same, and then survival for years 2 and 3 to be the same. Flood years versus non-flood years. Okay, so I'm going to hold down Control, click on the 4 for the females, move it over and drop it on top of 1. Do the same thing for 5 and for 6. And then to combine the flood years, I'm going to take the box for 3 and move it on top of the box for 2. And then I'm going to do the same thing for males. So 4 on top of 1, 5 on top of 1, 6 on top of 1, 3 on top of 2, renumber with overlap. Okay, so this all looks fine on the chart, but there could be problems underneath this if we haven't moved the right boxes on top of each other. So anytime you're moving individual boxes like this, it's always a good idea to take a look at your parameter index matrices to make sure that you got everything right. So I'm going to select 4. Remember, we have 4 matrices. Click OK. Hard to see them when they're all overlapping. So here we have our 4 parameter index matrices for male survival. Remember, we wanted to combine survival from years 1 with 4, 5, and 6. Those are all numbered 1, so that works. And then years 2 and 3, we wanted to estimate those to be the same survival. We have those set to parameter 2, so we're estimating the same values for all those years combined. Now we check the females to make sure we did that right. 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1. That's good. And then we stuck with our recapture model where males are allowed to have a different recapture probabilities from females. So we got it all run right. Click Run, Current Model. OK to run. Yeah, we'll use the identity matrix. Oh, shoot. No, I'm not going to do that because what I forgot to do is change the name of the model. Okay, so now what I'm going to call this is phi flood because I'm comparing the flood years to the non-flood years. P sex is right. And again, you can use whatever name you want to use here. If you wanted to say phi 1, 4, 5, 6 versus 1, 2 or 2, 3, you could do that. Just something that'll help you remember what this model is. So now I'll click OK to run, identity matrix, add it to the output. Bam! Comes right up to the top. Okay, 4 units better, 86% weight, so that's pretty darn good. And if we look at our parameters, and what you see is what you might expect, is that for the non-flood years, remember that was, we assigned parameter number 1 to that for years 1, 4, 5, 6. we get a survival of about 61%. And then for the flood years, it drops down to about 47%. Big drop for moderately long-lived species like this, and our recapture probabilities again higher for males than for females. Okay, so there you go. That should get you through that gnatcatcher example in your homework. One thing you might want to play around with is where do you do that here? I'll take a look at it and we can do it in the next one. There's a way to stop Mark from always asking you to click on yes, use the identity matrix, and yes, add it to the results table. I'll just make sure I know how to do that and do it next time. That's all, folks. Thanks. Bye. Oh, okay, I'm having a little trouble getting out of here. Oh, fuck. Excuse my French. I had closed the recording program. I cannot believe that. So I didn't record this.